Oh man, is there a lot to unpack with this new blog post? There's so much here. I actually answered a lot of the questions I had about the first one and raised a ton more. Well, I mean, I guess let's start off with the good parts of this blog post. Answered a ton of questions. Sailing is, they talked a little bit more about what their plans are with it, which sounds cool. They want to release a whole bunch of content. It kind of just sounds like a huge expansion to the game, which I mean, obviously not a bad thing. It's just like how long is that going to take for development, along with the mechanics of sailing and all that other stuff. But more playable area sounds really cool. More content sounds really cool. And it kind of sounds like it's like the least game breaking of them all. It's just adding like a new aspect to the game that's not gonna make stuff super overpowered and just do a lot of cool stuff. Um, Also, they got this cool little chart for shamanism, like the different names that you could pick or like they have the ideas for. And yeah, I think shamanism for a name, even though I don't like the skill at all, the name is kind of weird, and if it is to be that one, I think the name does need to change. It just, I don't know, it does sound cool, but it's really long, and I don't know. I think there's an easier, simpler one. Wild, honestly, is one of my favorite picks. I think that's really cool. Obviously, talked a lot about all three of the skills. Sailing was kind of like the least they talked about. They just kind of talked about what they want to do, which is fine. This is like the early stages, and we're just kind of picking which one we want to see more on, pretty much. But shamanism specifically, they said a ton about. Um, they talked about the augments and how they're gonna be like, they don't know what they're gonna do with them exactly, but if players aren't interested in them being just straight stat upgrades, that's something they don't want to do. They say we don't have to do it, but item augments are significant and cool potential for the skill, which is kind of worrisome because that just kind of sounds like they want to put it out, and I don't want them to put it out. Uh, Also, they could touch on skilling instead of or in addition to when pitching ruinous powers, the prayer book. Players said they didn't like the skilling prayers to exist, but the majority of the players said that they felt like the design, they just didn't really fit within a prayer book. That read really weird. I think I read that wrong, but you get what I mean. It didn't fit within the prayer book, and the shamanism might be a better alternative to have those skilling prayers or like skilling boosts added to the game, which I think is an interesting idea. Then they go on to say, like, well, if that's the case, am I gonna have to train shamanism to do other skilling? Which, again, they say they don't really want that to be the case either, especially with like, they talk about PVMing a lot, which is, I think, is a good thing because that was what I was the most worried about is how this is gonna affect, like your strength and shit, like how you are gonna gain like power creep, like because this sounds like, especially the augment sounded like extremely like power creep. um and it kind of sounds like they're drawing like coming back from that a little bit, which I think is the right direction for this skill specifically. But it also sounds like they want to add it, which is really worrisome because if they want to add something, they're gonna try to steer it in that direction, if not just do it anyways. Like, let's look at the Void Waker. It's pretty much the Karasi, and the players voted no against the Crossy 2 3 times, and they still found a way to put it into the game. That's kind of how I see it. It's kind of weird and a little worrisome. Oh, and they also, something I said in my last video, if you didn't watch the last one, I'll link it here. You can go ahead and, I guess I'll link it at the beginning. You can look at it if you want to. But they said that they wanted to make the items untradeable to train shamanism, which, is okay. And then in this blog post, they say, well, there's room to make the items tradable from the nature and the untradables from the spirit realm, which is kind of exactly what I said what they were going to do, or I thought they were going to do. Well, I mean, I don't really mind that, to be fair, just for the simple fact is, like, as a main account, I don't really want to have to, like, there's got to be something in it. It's a gathering skill, so wouldn't you want to be able to sell something, like actually make money on it? I don't know. I feel like they force too much Iron Man content, which is actually, I think this is the question here, is shamanism forced Iron Man gameplay? And they say they don't want it to be that way, but it kind of seems like that's the direction it's gonna take. Um I guess we'll just have to wait and see if, you know, if this is the one that the player base chooses, if that's how it ends out. All in all, they do say they really don't want this to just be a straight up Bible skill. They don't want the first person to get 99 to be somebody that, oh, sorry, I am recording this live, but that's cool. I got a master clue. Anyways, they don't want this to be the first person to get 99 to be the person that has the most money. They don't want that, which I think is really cool. I think it's a cool idea, and I hope that is the way it turns out, because I want to try to get 99 in this skill pretty fast. I don't think I'll be the first one. Actually, I'm just gonna say I'm definitely not gonna be the first one. I'm not really like the fastest skiller. I try to be, but I think it's cool that they're gonna make it a fair fight at least. And finally, the last skill they covered in this blog post is taming. Taming. Oh man. It sounds cool, I'll be honest. A lot of stuff, I think with each of these skills, they are talking about adding a significant amount to the game, a lot of area they want to add, and a lot of things. They've got big hopes for this game. And that was one thing. This blog post is kind of based off of a, they had a talk. They did like a, I think it was live on Twitch, and I watched the whole video. It was on YouTube. I'll link it down below for you guys. It's 2 hours long. They look extremely excited about it, which I'm glad that they're excited about it. They seem like this is going in the direction that they would like to play the game, because they like the game too. That sounds great. I hope that they are very passionate about it, and that's why I think no matter what really comes out, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great addition to the game. I just just hope I like it. You know what I mean? But they say it's gonna add some areas maybe and only be accessible with the animals that you catch or tame, and then they don't really want to add in-game mounts. That's not the idea. It's just maybe traveling to certain areas you need them. And then also they say it's not going to be like raising kittens, because people hate that and it's boring and it just kind of takes away from the game. They want it to be something different where you actually are interacting with it, and then you get like a permanent addition to your arsenal, team, whatever. So it's going to be a permanent thing. That's kind of where the worrisome part comes in. I'm just going to read this whole section. The question is, how are we avoiding this being compared to summoning? Is there an element of FOMO, fear of missing out, if you don't train as a skill while you're skilling because you're potentially missing out on benefits? Now that question, there's like 3 questions there, or 2 questions. But the first part, how are we avoiding this being compared to summoning? That was my question at the beginning, because the first blog post, it didn't disconnect the two. They seemed very similar. And again, they say, I'm going to read this whole thing. We know the reward space of the animal companions that have abilities is similar to summoning. However, there's no charm collecting, as we saw mixed feedback on this in the survey. Taming is more focused on nature. The gameplay loop has been completely changed too. The key difference is the permanence of the companions. We know players are a bit fearful as to how powerful animal companions' abilities might be and the impact they could have on the wider game. We'd like animal companions to have interesting effects that may be a bit more niche rather than impact the entire skill. Rather than a flat XP boost to everything in fishing, perhaps your companion can help you with a specific fishing method. We are very cautious of FOMO too, and we don't want to feel like you have to train taming in order to be efficient in other skilling. Okay, first off, what? They're saying... It just sounds like they said this is a similar skill to summoning. That first part reads, this is similar to summoning. Everybody's saying this is similar, but it's not. Don't worry. They're permanent. What? How is that different? I don't get it. If people don't want summoning in the game and your fix is to make a skill similar to summoning but make them permanent instead of temporary? Was the problem with summoning is that they were too hard to collect? No, they were so powerful. All of the abilities that they had were extremely powerful, and I don't want to see that come into this game. It's just, why do this? And they say that the core gameplay loop is different, but they never say how. All they say is that the companions are permanent. What part? Okay, even if it is different, if the outcome is the same but permanent, that's the problem. Even if it's more enjoyable to do the skill, which I'm sure that's what they're talking about, is going to be more enjoyable to train the skill. The problem was at the end of training said skill, you got some of the most overpowered things in the game. I think that's what people are more worried about this than how fun it's going to be to train. People don't want to ruin the game like they did RS3, you know what I mean? Which, again, I don't think they're going to ruin the game. They go on to say the abilities would be niche, but we're conscious that it shouldn't be dead content, which is confusing as all hell, because how are you going to make something not overpowered, niche, and still be relevant? You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's just like some people will still do it if it's like, because I think the example they use is when you're doing agility, you can get like a pet monkey to follow you around and pick up the marks so you don't have to. Just like quality of life stuff, which is cool, fine. But how many people are gonna care? That sounds dead on arrival to me. Like, it might be like fun, like you might do it if it's super easy, but if it's like you have to go out and collect shit to do this, why would you do it? That's what that's what I don't understand with this skill. It sounds so cool at the beginning, and then it just destroys. It crashes and burns right at the end. I can't wrap my head around it. I think that's gonna be it though for this video. I kind of got a little upset there at the end. I'm sorry if that came through there. If you guys want to talk about it, last episode we had a lot of cool conversations in the comments. Go ahead, leave a comment down. I'd love to. Tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to talk about it because there's a lot of stuff going on, and maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. Maybe you can tell me something I'm missing. I'll also link this blog post and the 2-hour long video if you guys want to watch it as well down below. Thanks for watching.